Hi, good evening. I'm Siti and I am here with Miss Kamilah, and she will be talking to us regards to inner peace during the COVID times. Miss Kamilah, hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting me here.
Hi, Miss Kamilah, what should we do right now, facing right now the pandemic of COVID-19?
Now everyone have to wear masks before they go out. Then some countries are still in a lockdown, and some countries are, you can't go out unless you go for essential shopping. There will be issues like stress, job loss, and especially when we have to spend time at home, a lot of people feel anxious that they cannot meet and go out with their friends. Some of them got retrenched. We are dealing with different issues during this pandemic. For example, my brother, he was separated from his newly wedded wife for almost a year throughout the lockdown between Singapore and Malaysia. So he didn't get to meet his wife. So that's an issue that they have to go through together as a newlywed. And as for me, being a mom, I have 4 children, and then my kids have to be at home. I face a different kind of stress. So I used to meet clients outside of the house, like in person, and I have to make a lot of adjustments as well when it comes to my work. As a rule of thumb, since we are dealing with so many different things and so many different situations, and each situation is very unique for each of us, be aware of what's going on. Acting responsibly given the pandemic. We have to follow the advisories by the government. You are required to wear the mask. You are required to hand wash. Go out with a certain group of people. Of course, number one is to follow the rules. We can contain the spread of the virus. So that's a responsible thing to do. Take care of your health. Okay, health is very important during this pandemic. In fact, health has been very important even before the pandemic. It should be the number one priority for all of us. This pandemic teach us that it's even more urgent. Build up your immune system, take vitamin C's, exercise regularly, drink lots of water, boost your immune system in your body. Then number 3 is learn how to communicate with your family members. Okay, since we are already in this pandemic and we are mostly at home, to be able to communicate effectively with our family members. Sometimes if we are in the same house and we are seeing the same person 24/7, it can get very stressful. Yeah, because different people have different opinion at home, even at home. How do you come to an agreement? How do you make requests in a way that won't hurt another person's feelings? How do you get things done as a family? So that's number 3 skills that is required in this pandemic. And it's good because communication and relationship should start from home. And then if you can master that from home, of course, it becomes a lot easier when you deal with your colleagues, your boss, your friends, and as a community. Number 4 is if you are working from home or if you are affected, if your job is affected or if you have a pay cut because of the pandemic, because a lot of industries are affected. For example, the airline industry. This is a very great opportunity for us to upskill because the government is pumping in a lot of resources. You can make full use of that funds. And since we have a lot of time at home, don't have time to spend out with family, might as well use that time and use that resources to upgrade yourself. So these are the top 4 advice I would highly recommend.
So, in other words, also we have to do a lot of adjustments, accept the situation that it is what it is. We fine tune ourselves first and make adjustments for ourselves and for our family and for our community. So, with the uncertainty in 2021 and the coming years for job and extra, what should one do during this pandemic other than upskill themselves?
When your job is affected and if you have a pay cut and then finding a new job that is the same as the job that you did previously could be hard during this period, right? And recently there's a news that came out, Mothership.sg reported that job applicants would take around 11 months to secure a job. Recently, I met with my friend who works as a headhunter. So she said that actually jobs are easily available. We are a bit choosy, a bit picky. So another advice or recommendation that I would suggest is that don't be too picky or selective when it comes to taking on finding a job, because we still need to feed our family. We still need to have some kind of income to so that we can still go on with life. In the meantime, while you are applying, you are doing that job, be it contract basis or part-time basis. After you've upgraded, then you can apply for the job that you want. that suits you. A lot of Singaporeans don't want to apply for the jobs that they are overqualified for because they feel that it's like a downgrade. Feel embarrassed. Let's say, for example, a graduate who works as a Grab driver or a cleaner
Security
or a
guard.
waiter, security guard.
Yeah.
This is not the time to feel embarrassed. Like. Everybody is going through this together, and a job is just a job. It helps you pay the bills, puts food on the table. It would be wise for you to just take on any job, and then while at the same time grading, then after that you apply
Yeah.
for the job.
Yeah, because it's not like it's the end, right? You
Yeah.
still can. So, other than upskill your educational for jobs, how about personal development? Do they need to go for personal development courses, let's say, especially like communication, right? And a lot of others like speaking in public.
Mm.
Mm.
A lot of us, when we upskill, we tend to focus on the skills instead of the hard skills, but we forgot the soft skills. Soft skills is very, very important for life, okay? Because the hard skills, it can expire. Sometimes you keep having to upgrade the hard skills. Sometimes the industry don't require that skill anymore. Then you may need to take up another skill. But if you have soft skill, for example, if you learn how to be resilient, you learn how to communicate, you know how to speak with confidence, you will be able to easily negotiate, with your boss, easily negotiate with your colleagues, you can easily get work done, you can easily even interact with your family members, even with your children. It's a very useful life skill to have. I think there's still lack of awareness when it comes to personal development. Yeah, if you can't afford to pay for personal development, grab books. Even YouTube has a lot of free resources.
Yes.
That you can start to begin to learn, okay, how to communicate effectively. You can learn from there.
Because I think a lot of people doesn't see the importance of it because they only have a look at skills is something that you can pick up, or soft skills is like not really as urgent and as important as educational. But I think both goes hand in
Hand in
hand,
hand, yeah.
right? Because you need to have emotional quotient and intelligence quotient to actually, especially this pandemic, right? To able to do a lot of adjustments like you mentioned just now.
Yeah.
When we say we forgive and forget, we can always forgive most of the time. When something trigger, we tend to react and hurt other people's feelings unintentionally. It seems we women, I guess, she feels that most of us women are hard to forget the past. Is this true, or how do we get past over that?
I don't like to generalize women being this or men being that. From a research point of view, it's founded that women tend to talk a lot more, and women tend to be more expressive when they are emotional. This is based on research, okay? And men tend to suppress how they feel. How to deal with not being triggered, okay? When you are dealing with situations at home, okay? As a inner peace coach, I will always coach my clients to first be aware of their own reaction. It's good that this person has already gotten the awareness that she gets triggered easily. So it's a good start. That's why she's asking the question. Awareness is very important. Yeah, so she's already have that awareness. So now having that awareness is one thing. Then another thing is to catch her being triggered. So whenever, if let's say for example our child don't listen to us, then we start to notice that we wanted to nag, for example. Okay, we wanted to nag. Before you even nag, notice that reaction, notice that, oh, you are about to nag, you have this urge to nag. Just notice that, just hold back. Take a deep breath, assess the situation first. Because sometimes we don't react to the situation, but we react to things in our mind. Like for example, if the child didn't listen to you right away, if let's say you ask the child to clear their school books away from to make way for meals, for example, if you're using the dining table for studies, right? Then if let's say the child don't listen to you, you would think of an incident in the past where your child was being good to you or being rebellious to you. Then you would react based on that assumption that your child is always being rude and rebellious to you. But it could also mean that the child couldn't really listen to what your instruction, or the child was just tired, okay, and the child was maybe a bit distracted, and you may need to request again so that the child can pay attention to you. There's a lot of possibilities in one situation. And in every situation, even though it looks similar, always be curious to find out if our interpretation or our assumption about the situation is the truth. Oftentimes is an assumption. Listening to your assumption will always tend to destroy relationships, destroy your mood, your day, and you would respond or react in a certain way that would make things even worse. My recommendation is to hold your reaction, notice it, where it's coming from, and also to be curious about what the situation really is. If you're not sure, always ask. Assumption is the biggest killer of all when it comes to relationships. Yeah.
What's the difference between reaction and response? Because for me, I feel that reaction is something that you don't even think, like catch yourself. But for response, is where you gather all the information and then you really have this critical thought of how do I, my angle of the situation, how to assess it,
Yeah.
and what should I do next.
Yeah. Former was unconscious, more of an unconscious act, and then the latter is more of a conscious effort.
Yes.
Let's say you reacting, it's more from the triggers from the brain. We are a reactive being, and our reaction often comes from the brain. Okay, the survival part of the brain. So when we see something as a threat, let's say for example, okay, if I'm throwing a ball at you, I'm just going to catch the ball, right? But there's one moment when I wanted to give you the ball, but I stopped. Your reaction would be immediately,
Yes.
automatically, as if you wanted to catch the ball, as if I was about to throw the ball. It's because the brain registers this repetition. Yeah. So when there's repetition, there tends to be a reaction towards the repetition or a particular action or particular incident or memory. The brain would want to react similarly. So that's on autopilot. So a lot of us, we go through life in autopilot and we are not aware of our reaction. So sometimes even when we are driving, someone is honking our car, right? Our instant reaction was like wanting to scold back or wanting to, curse at the driver for honking at you. But that is just an automatic reaction. But if you notice, oh, someone's honking at me, I wanted to react, but you stop that reaction, then that's when you are actually consciously making the effort to notice and respond, choose to respond.
We're talking about trigger, right? About the past, right? Some people they say, "Oh, I cannot lah. I cannot forget." It's just like kept happening for myself or for my sake. I do forgive, but I still remember it because, like what you say, we always our daily life is usually come to a point where it's autopilot, right? So how do we go about to stop ourselves to be connected to that particular incident? When something happened, need to assess what exactly happened rather than you link it to the past.
So depend or assume.
Yeah, assume, right? Especially like when you say something, she must be referring to this, or she mean this, or she mean that. When you don't think like that way, people say you catch no ball lah. Because there are some parts of our life where it's generally accepted by people. Some like unwritten rule of the book, and some are written rule of book. So how do you go in between these where you want to be unresponsive to your past, yet you want to make sure that you get it correctly and not offended the person?
That requires sensory equity lah. So in NLP, in neuro-linguistic programming, be very aware of our situation, our circumstances, the instance that we are in, moment by moment. And we also learn how to see facial expressions, body language. So if let's say you are interacting with that person and you don't want to assume badly of the person, if let's say the person is already fuming red or angry, or the person is trying to cause harm or be abusive, for example, of course you have to react lah, because that's survival mode, right? We need to be able to discern, how to respond appropriately, and that requires sensory equity. Sensory equity means you are totally aware with how people are feeling. The eyes, right? The people of the eyes, whether it's dilated or it's not dilated, and the skin color, is it flushing red or is turning pale? So those are the kind of things that we need to look up for lah. And then because most of the time when we nowadays, especially people are looking through their phones, right? They are walking, they're crossing the road, they're looking at the phone. So they have no sensory acuity. That is a very easy example. So they don't know whether a vehicle is coming at them,
Yeah.
or they don't know whether there's a rock in front of them. In life, when dealing with people, we need to widen our projection to be able to know the situation and what's going on. Does require practice.
A lot of us, right, me, myself, and I, so a lot of us are not interested in other people or have thoughts about other people. We may think that we are thoughtful, I do charity or whatever, but when we interact, right, I have a friend of mine was saying that you being late, it shows that you do not respect me and you are not thoughtful. And that never occurred to me that I wasn't being thoughtful. I was just like, okay, I'm late, I say sorry. But it is a new realm when she let me understand how she feels, how it affects her. So I realized that in my day to day, there are a lot of things that I may unexpectedly or unintentionally hurt other feelings because I'm not interested in them.
Yeah.
I don't think about how they feel or how to make their life easier because I'm more interested in myself. So how do we as a family unit, having children especially, right? How do we deal with all the challenges, especially during this pandemic? When children have HBL and Zoom classes and we are not able to be around to supervise them. Or we are around to supervise them but we just, because the interaction are more now at home with them and we are not able to, not to say control, but we're not able to apprehend the whole thing.
So I always share about happy parenting contents. And even as a mother myself, I'm a mother of 4 children. The first is 16, 14, and then a boy-girl twins. They are turning 3 now. So how I treat my children is that I see them as highly capable, and I focus more on soft skills, teaching them to be responsible children, teaching them independence, teaching them accountability, teaching them leadership. For example, if the teacher called me and said that, let me just give this example before I answer your question, right? So the teacher would call me, hey, my son didn't hand in the homework. Then I would tell my son, ask him like, why is it that he didn't hand in the homework? He needs to learn for himself to be able to complete the homework and submit the homework. I'm not going to monitor you 24/7 whether you have done your work or not. I don't have time for that because I have my work to do. And that applies to a lot of parents who are also working at home while their child is at school. So we don't have that luxury of time to keep helicoptering our child to see, did they complete the homework? Did they submit on time? Did they pack the right book? And you have a long list to check for your children, and then you have a long list to check for your own work, for your own life. And if you are cooking at home, then you have a long list of ingredients to prepare and all that. So of course, if you want to do everything, then it becomes overwhelming. Naturally, it will become overwhelming and very stressful for you. And then of course, it's going to be very stressful for the child as well because you become easily agitated, and the house, is not conducive for the child to also learn, and they don't enjoy schoolwork anymore. It actually has an adverse effect on the child if, let's say, your parents is stressed out. Then the parents will ask, how must I not be stressed out? Education is very important, right? A lot of parents think that way. I'm not saying that you should neglect your child entirely, but if you equip your child with the soft skill, your child will be able to learn how to take care of their own things for long. It doesn't stop at during the school period, but if they are adults and going into the working environment, it's going to be a lot easier for them to be able to cope with the stress that comes during work at workplace. Yeah, so it goes back to soft skills and personal development.
So in my younger days, that's what my mom did for us. And I think being a parent myself, right, I need to put trust into my children that they know what is right and wrong because I've put values to it from young, and then learn to trust in their own decision.
Yeah.
In able to understand and able to conceptualize about their own future because this is their own choice, their own life. As a parent, most of us don't want our child to turn out failure. We don't want our child to fail. But the thing is, when you don't let them have small steps of doing small mistakes, it will end up to have become a bigger problem in the future, right?
So it also teaches the child to be more resilient. in life, and also like you said, being able to face their mistakes, and face the consequence of making such mistakes. Let them learn from it, and of course we are there to only guide them, but not to spoon feed them all
Yeah.
the time.
Yes. During my time, right, they always use reverse psychology. Oh, you stupid. So in order for us to be like, oh, I'm going to prove to you that you are wrong. But there is also a adverse effect on it where, it will backfire.
Mm.
So I do believe that a lot of us needs to relook on our parenting and sometimes change on our parenting. I'm not perfect either. My kids have their own problems, and I do have my own challenges with them. But I really believe that my kids are able to say that they don't follow things blindly and able to tell you what they want.
Mm.
So they always tell me, okay, this is what I want. My son have a girlfriend. I had told him when during younger days, right? My parenting, so if you have a girlfriend, I'll kill you. But now I tell him, okay, you have a girlfriend. Okay, my reason why. I think it's not time yet. It's something that for him to be able to understand and accept. Because during our time, oh, I'm your mother.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you just listen. But I think now, right, the advance of technology and everything, they need to know what's the reason behind it. As some of us stay with elderly, we have elderly at home, we stay with mother-in-law or our own mother, parents. So how do we deal with this elderly, especially during this pandemic,
Mm-mm.
where we had to go circuit breaker, and now we are more encouraged to still have safe distancing and not go out unnecessarily, right?
Mm-mm.
How do we deal with family members that get on our nerves? I mean, I'm not saying elderly get on our nerves, but sometimes the difference of opinions, and then they don't, not all of them really up to date about the circumstances. They still have this old mentality.
Sometimes elderlies, when there's a pandemic, they're not supposed to go out, they will still go out. They will still hang out with friends, or they don't wear their mask, for example. And they are, like you said, they're not up to date, or they don't believe in all this risk. They think that we are just over exaggerating. Sometimes you can't change them immediately. You can't do anything if they don't want to listen to you. Okay, I would prefer not to stress. Inner peace means you're focusing on your inner self. No point focusing on the outer situation. Like people, for example, you can't control how people want to behave, how they want to think, how they want to act. You have no control over that 100%. You can't. Okay, so that's the reality that we have to accept. A lot of time we are not able to accept the situation is because we think that we are able to control other people. So let go of that control, okay, and focus more on your own inner peace. Because if they get themselves in trouble, you need to also be clear that you wouldn't want to be responsible for them if they don't want to take accountability of their own actions. You need to set that clear for them. Okay, you can go out if anything were to happen. If you have a fine being imposed, I'm not going to help you pay. Just be upfront about it. But if you feel like pity your elderly, then you can do that, and there's a choice. Okay, but then it will have a adverse impact on your life and finances and everything. So I believe that in life, and every choices we make would cause us certain consequences that could be detrimental for our livelihood or happiness. And there's another choice that you can choose to just be happy. So if you can't make that choice, then work with a coach.
In other words, you are saying that what's that cannot be controlled, just let it be, right?
Mm.
We cannot change others also, right?
Not 100%, definitely not. Yeah,
Mm.
but of course we can encourage
Yeah.
people, but not. We are not. We are not. We don't have divine powers.
Yeah.
Magic. I want to
Yeah.
change you to be exactly like how I want you to. No,
Yes.
that's not reality.
We're talking about going out and everything, but what about like when we have elderly and then we have communication breakdown and you still have to face her or him, and you were like, oh my god, I just shut down, but it make things more worse rather than just like let it go. What other things that we can make it better? The communication, or should I go for a communication course and she doesn't go for communication course? Should I go for soft skill and she doesn't go soft skill? So what is
the way to go about it.
yeah,
Right? So you're saying that you are constantly dealing with this behavior ongoingly, and
yeah, especially every day, then you see the person's face. But then when you shut it down, right, and just keep quiet, it become more worse. So,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Again, no, it goes back to the sensory equity. You need to be able to discern what action would be best given that situation. So, if let's say talking to that person and being really upfront about it would support you, live peacefully in at home, or to find a middle party to help advise the family member, then by all means do that. Okay, and of course find a neutral party lah to be able to a mediator or a counselor.
Or a coach, yeah.
Yeah, or coach. Yeah, there's always a way out to this. Why I recommend inner peace first. Why I recommend setting a clear boundary for yourselves first, because that is the immediate thing that you can do right now. So if you want to go to the extent of trying to support the person change their behavior, the next step is to lead by example. Because sometimes we are not aware that we want the person to behave a certain way, but we are not mindful about how we behave around that person as well.
Yes.
If let's say for example we don't want the person to argue or yell, and then you respond by arguing and yelling at the same time, then you are also the same right? So why should the person listen to you? I find what's powerful is that when you become a role model, if let's say the person is very messy or unkempt at home, right, very always littering around the house, lead by example by being the tidy one. You have a tidy corner, and then while you're cleaning up your space, you just explain, I do this so that it's easier for me to get my things, get things done faster. So that's what I do. I will explain instead of telling them, hey, I expect you to you do it like this, my way, but then they don't really understand the functionality of why you are doing things that way. So instead, you just do it yourself, and at the same time, you just explain.
So you give subtle
Messages
messages.
are through role modeling. Yeah,
Ah,
we as parents we learn that role modeling is actually more powerful in raising kids rather than telling them what to do. It actually applies to adults too.
this is the last question from this lady. How we develop the children to flourish with motivation and interest with the world outside? They are stagnant and seem buried with computer and high tech gadget. I know they need space and time. To them, we don't speak their language and we are poor listeners. In a Malay saying is kata orang Melayu, cakap salah tak cakap salah. So in English, say wrong, don't say also wrong. So how do we actually?
Definitely, technology is here to stay. That's one thing we have to acknowledge as parents. The usage of technology is going to increase, it's not going to decrease in our day to day lives. Good for them to be accustomed to the use of technology. In moderation is healthier, lah, right? And that's why parents are concerned that their children are always looking at the gadget and not interacting with family members, or it could affect safety, and it could affect mental health, it could affect sleep, physical health. Sometimes gaming, you're not eating, you're not sleeping. It goes back to leading by example. If you as a parent is also using a lot of gadget in front of your kids, then of course saying it won't make a lot of difference to them. Find a tribe for you to go out with. Let's say for example, if you're a lead, or mother, right? Find other friends who are mothers, other mother friends. Yeah. Find friends who are mothers to do fun activities. For example, explore new activities that you might be interested to do. Let's say for example, rock climbing. Now, try new things like rock climbing, or nerve. So just be explorative yourself. If you want your kids to be explorative, you also need to be explorative, right? Yeah, so if let's say you don't have that kind of health to do that, then go nature walks. Share that with your friend, with your child, and you must be enthusiastic about it. You must, because positivity is actually very contagious. Especially if you had a good time outside, and then you bring it at home, and then you are so happy, excited. It's like, wow, mommy make new friends. I saw this. Look at this picture, and you keep sharing with them. So every time when you have plans, you just keep asking them. Then one day they will definitely say yes to you, lah. Yeah.
Good idea. Because a lot of times they think that we do not know their language, their what are the terminologies in their use, and they find that we are not up to date, or we are poor listeners
Mhm.
because of the generation gap and the upbringing of during my time and the upbringing during his time is quite different. Uh, so like it's good that you mentioned about asking them out
Mm.
and be enthusiastic lah. So I also believe that we as a parent, right, we must first start to be a good communicator. I think a lot of us, especially me lah, is like you listen, listen.
Yeah, I sometimes do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I don't hear out what he has to say, but you just listen. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Camila. Thank you for
yeah, no
coming.
problem.
Thank you for sharing with us
Yes.
about inner peace. And I really do hope that all of us get a takeaway from this conversation that we have. And I will put out the contact for Miss Camila, and you have anything, asking for help, you can just contact her.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. See you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.